Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
This society needs a spectacle. It might help us to see some people.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 27th of February 2021, we look at responsive, R-E-S-P-O-N-S-I-V-E, responsive, with the view being that it is important for Vincentians not to fall asleep, but to remain responsive and take steps to endure and or counter the prevailing circumstances in the country. The Oxford Dictionary defines responsive as responding readily and with interest. And the Collins Dictionary states that if someone or something is responsive, they react quickly and favorably. Those definitions tell us that to be responsive is to react quickly. To be responsive is to react quickly with interest. And to be responsive is to react quickly in a positive way, especially in a way which is favorable to you and those around you. Earlier this week, in fact, on Tuesday, the 23rd of February 2021, the world, especially the sporting world, and in particular the golfing world, was stunned by the breaking news that Tiger Woods, arguably the world's greatest golfer ever, was involved in a car crash. It transpired that his car crashed and rolled over several times, and that Tiger had to be rescued from the wreckage by firefighters and paramedics using a piece of equipment called the Jaws of Life. Tiger is said to be lucky to be alive, and he sustained injuries to his legs which required extensive surgery. The latest news is that following surgery, Tiger is awake and responsive and recovering in a hospital bed. The important thing here is that despite the trauma of the accident and the possible ruination of his career, Tiger is responsive and recovering. It is that kind of lesson, one of being responsive despite the trauma caused by the circumstances prevailing in the country, that we, on A View from the Outside, encourage our fellow Vincentians to learn. Be responsive to the threat of the effusively erupting volcano at La Soufrière. Ensure that you put yourself and your family in the best position to react quickly and positively in the event that the volcano starts to erupt explosively or violently. Be on guard and listen for the news bulletins and updates and heed the warnings. Those in the danger zones especially need to be prepared and equipped to evacuate promptly and efficiently if the need arises and the order is given to do so. Take precaution that you pack your valuables, including your identification documents, and be prepared to move out quickly and travel lightly if and when you're asked to do so. Also, ensure that your flashlights and transistor radios have batteries and are working. Also ensure that your mobile phones are charged and that you have credit on your phones. Be responsive to the COVID-19 pandemic, which continues to wreak havoc around the world and which now appears to be taking its toll on the country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially with the number of infections and the number of deaths on the rise, with the number of deaths being reported to be 8 currently. Continue to follow the protocols. Wash your hands regularly. Wear your mask, covering your mouth and nose, and continue to observe the social or physical distancing guidelines where possible. Equip yourselves with vital information. Be aware of the information available pertaining to the various vaccines, and take the decision best suited to you and your family and the country as a whole. Be responsive to the continuing threat of dengue fever in the country. Try not to be overrun or become overwhelmed by the disease. Remember that dengue fever kills. In fact, it has been reported that 8 Vincentians, including children, have already died as a result of dengue fever. Be responsive by taking your own steps to reduce the prevalence of the Aedes aegypti mosquito in your community. Assist in getting rid of stagnant water, which is known to be the breeding ground of those mosquitoes. Be responsive and brace yourselves for the impact of the economic hardship which is already descending and engulfing mostly everyone in the country. Do not take this lightly. Just a few weeks ago, in fact, during the very first program for this year, on the 2nd of January 2021, we here on A View from the Outside alerted everyone to brace for impact for the tough times ahead, which Vincentians are inevitably going to face and are already facing. Since then, the signs are everywhere that economic hardship is being experienced up and down the country. The regime has already imposed an increase of 1% on customs service charge in a deficit budget estimated to be 1.21 billion Eastern Caribbean dollars, thus passing on that increase, that added cost, to every consumer in the country. Even the regime is now seemingly going into high gear to get Vincentians accustomed to the idea to brace for the impact which we highlighted all those weeks ago. In an article in the Vincentian newspaper dated the 21st of January 2021, the head of the regime is reported to have confessed, in quote, that the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are, quote, in for a difficult ride. The Minister of Finance, in an article in the Searchlight posted online, dated the 23rd of February 2021, is also reported to have warned Vincentians in economic terms that 2021 is likely to be a difficult year. The national economy continues to labor under a regime which, after 20 years, remains seemingly ill-equipped and evidently unable to generate sustainable employment and income-generating projects to get the economy moving. In light of that, we, here on A View from the Outside, encourage you to be responsive to the dire economic situation which glares at Vincentians. Be innovative and come up with projects to try and generate income to keep yourself and your family afloat. Get back to the lands and produce. Food is always in demand. Grow food to feed yourself and your family and sell or trade the surplus. Do not commit predial larceny. Do not steal people's crops and livestock. Yes, things are hard, but they are hard for everyone. Do not make it harder for farmers who plant their crops expecting to reap them when they mature. Farmers too need to be responsive. Be responsive in a positive way. Be responsive and do not fall asleep. Be responsive and do not turn a blind eye to the poverty which pervades the country. The regime appears to continue to be so ashamed of the shocking statistics revealed from the country poverty assessment, so much so that they continue to deny Vincentians of the contents and details of the report. They shamelessly continue to bury the details. Be responsive to that and force the regime to publish the report in its entirety. Be responsive to the increased homelessness in the country. Just yesterday, on the 26th of February 2021, a video surfaced on Eyewitness News showing the harrowing scenes of a blind 77-year-old homeless man living in squalid conditions in Chateaubelair. That is just one of many. Do not be selfish and turn a blind eye and continue to live in comfort and opulence while many languish in squalor on the streets. Take positive action and be responsive to that. Be responsive and react to the joblessness which pervades the country. Be aware of the youth unemployment which is nearing 50%, and be aware of the skyrocketing unemployment among the adult population in the country. If you have a job, do not sit unconcerned about those who are unemployed. Be responsive and agitate for them. In this economic climate, and at a time when it is evident that young people are most vulnerable to people trafficking and other abuses, do not turn a blind eye. Be responsive to their plight. This is the time for each one to reach one. Do not just sit in comfort because you are not directly impacted now, like some of those young people. Be aware of their harrowing circumstances and be responsive to their pain and distress. With the burden of the weight of all that is happening in the country weighing heavily on the nation, be responsive to that. Do not allow yourself to settle for less. Be responsive and demand better for yourself, your family, your community, and your country as a whole. Be responsive and demand better in relation to the dilapidation which is evident throughout the country. Be responsive to the deplorable scenes of disrepair and reported stench which emanate around Kingstown, the capital. Call on those in authority, including Public Health Authority, to do their job and do it well. Georgetown, which is meant to be the second town in the country, is replete with evidence of degradation and disrepair. It does not give the appearance of a town which at one time used to be a thriving place. While this program focuses on the individual taking responsibility to be responsive to the challenges around, we are ever so mindful that it is absolutely critical for government to be responsive to the needs of the people of the country. It is their responsibility to be responsive and ensure that the economy thrives so that people will thrive in turn. It is their responsibility to be responsive to the needs of the people and create the economic climate in the country for people to have trust and confidence, because lack of responsiveness leads to hopelessness. We, on A View from the Outside, say that it is vitally important that Vincentians take on board the economic hardship and the task for survival which lay ahead. We say that it is crucial not to fall asleep to the challenges facing the country. We say that it is imperative to stay awake and be responsive to those challenges. As you stay awake, we say, steel yourselves, and be responsive to face the challenges head on, being ever so mindful of the words of the American author, business consultant, and motivational speaker, Ken Blanchard, who said, if you want people to be responsible, be responsive to their needs. Until next week, Justin and all of the listeners, this is Brereton Horne with A View from the Outside, with a reminder to send your feedback, as usual, to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. We also invite you to visit and like our Facebook page at A View from the Outside, and also to visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel at JMB Horne. Have a pleasant Saturday. Have a wonderful Sunday and a productive week ahead as everyone takes on the mantle to be responsive to the challenges that lie ahead.